Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I want to share with you 25 normal things that minimalists don't do. I was thinking about it because there are many normal everyday things that people do that I've either never done or that I've stopped doing ever since I started living a more simple, minimalist life around a decade ago. And I think that small little habits like this can really add up and make our life a lot nicer and easier and simpler, or maybe even decrease a bit of financial stress. So even if you don't consider yourself a minimalist in that sense of the word, I think that these can still be helpful in just being a bit more intentional when it comes to your life, your home, and your spending. And I've also thought a lot about this so that I'm not just talking about the things that I think everyone kind of knows about minimalism, like we don't do impulse shopping or we don't buy things just because they're on sale. I think those are very important, definitely, like the basics are extremely important. But I also wanted to talk about some things that maybe you didn't necessarily think about too much, but can really fit well in a minimalist lifestyle. Of course, I do want to say that if you do some of these things, even if you consider yourself to be a minimalist or not, then that is absolutely fine. Not all minimalists are the same way and do things and do life the same way, and I most certainly am not a perfect minimalist or anything like that, and what even is normal? So keep that in mind, please, and feel free to just take from this video the suggestions that you feel are helpful for you and leave the rest. Number one, accept things for free that you don't need. I think every minimalism journey kind of starts with the realization that stuff has an impact on our life. Both in a positive sense and a negative sense, stuff impacts our life. And therefore, we kind of also start to see that free things are not necessarily always free. They still come with a cost because it means that we have to keep them in our home. We have to maintain them, clean them, take care of them. Maybe if we don't want them anymore, we need to sell them or donate them or try to give them a second home somewhere. So there's all that stuff that comes with an item, even if it is initially free. So if there's something going on where they're handing out stuff for free, or maybe you sign up for something and you get something else with it for free as like a sign-up bonus, things like that, we tend not to initially be like, okay, it's free, so sure, why not? Minimalists, I think, tend to think a little bit more deeply about the actual item. Is that something that I would value? Is that something that I can use? Is it going to be of some value to me other than the fact that this is free? And if the answer is no, then I think minimalists will decline the offer for the free thing. Number two is buy clothing items with a fast fashion mindset. Whether you buy your clothing in a store, whether you buy them secondhand, whether you buy them from ethical and sustainable brands, I think the number one thing that most minimalists will have in common is the mindset with which we buy our clothing, and not buying them with a fast fashion mindset. And even within the minimalist space, I think there are minimalists with more of like an extreme minimalist capsule wardrobe. Some maybe have a little bit more, but in the end, we always buy or try to buy with intention. Is this going to be a long-lasting item? Am I going to get a lot of wear out of this thing? And we try to wear the clothing that we buy until it actually falls apart before you buy something new. So not like that fast throwaway mindset, but investing in quality, preferably pieces if we can, and at least try to wear them and wear them and wear them, and really get a lot of value from them. Number three is kind of related to that, and that is follow and participate in trends. And by trends, I mean like really short-term trends that are often on social media or things you see just people wearing outside. I think that minimalists just don't really care about that stuff anymore. Trends are there to make people continually buy new things because trends very quickly come and go, and that keeps us buying more and more, which is something that minimalists don't do typically. And even apart from the stuff and the spending angle, for me, not participating and not even knowing about trends is so much better for my mental space. It saves me so much energy not to have to worry about any of that stuff, and I honestly don't care about trends necessarily, and that saves a lot of mental space too. Number four is go into debt for the holidays. I think minimalists try to be more intentional when it comes to the holidays and really ask themselves, like, what is it that I want to get out of this time of year? Is this important to me? Yes or no? And how can I use what I already have for example, with the place settings, if you host a dinner or things like that. Decorations, gifts, we tend to be very intentional and mindful of our spending here and avoid debt if we can. And I think that part of living a minimalist, intentional lifestyle is also having to do with communication about things that are expected of you. And I think that starting a communication with the people that you celebrate the holidays with can be super helpful for everyone and not just the minimalist in the family. Because if it is just expected that everyone buys each other very expensive gifts, and if they can't afford it, then they'll just go into debt, then bringing up an issue like that can maybe even be helpful for other people in the family as well, who might not have dared or thought to bring up the conversation. They may actually also be kind of relieved that they don't have to buy the expensive gifts. So I think when it comes to minimalism and living intentional, it can really be very helpful to start up conversations about what is expected, what is like the normal thing to do, and whether or not we actually want to keep doing that, or maybe we want to make things a little bit more easy and simple and cheaper. And number 5 also has to do with that, and that is getting new holiday stuff every year. And if you really think about it, and if you really notice in the stores, there are so many holidays in a year that can potentially lead to us buying things for that holiday. So right now we're almost Valentine. The stores are filled with Valentine decor. Then it's Easter, you know, then it's, well, I don't think we have something in the summer. And then, you know, it's fall stuff. And then there's Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. It's like there are so many things a year that we can continually keep buying new things for. It's pretty crazy when you really notice it. And whether or not you want to decorate your home or not, I think there are minimalists on both sides of that spectrum. I think that typically a minimalist would try to make do with the holiday decor stuff that they already have, and maybe rotate it out every year, that you still have some variety, instead of continually buying new things every time that there's a new holiday around the corner. Number 6 is upgrade tech items unnecessarily. Buying a new phone or buying a new laptop or a tablet or whatever you have is really expensive, and they bring out a bunch of this new stuff every year, but when you really look at it, it's not that different from what they brought out the year before. I think typically minimalists try to make do with their technology for a very long time until it absolutely becomes like too slow to work with or obsolete or like not safe anymore, and don't just join the thing that they want us to join, the tech companies, just upgrading our phone every year or 2 years. There's absolutely no need for that. And I think that most minimalists also would probably go for not the latest model if they do decide to upgrade, but maybe a few models before that, which saves a ton of money and is also a way to just not participate in that cycle so much. Number 7, a very like typical normal thing to do is gift giving. Gift giving when it comes to birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, so many things. And I think that minimalists might still enjoy gift giving occasionally, but they don't just do it just because. They try to be more intentional about it. For example, my boyfriend and I do give each other a gift for our birthdays, and sometimes that is an actual thing, and sometimes it is more of an experience. But we don't give each other anything for our anniversary. We also don't give each other anything for the holidays. So that keeps it much more intentional and mindful. And for me personally, when I spot something in the stores that I think I know someone would really, really love, and it is within my budget, I will just gift it to them just because, like not for their birthday, not for their holiday, but because I found something that I think is perfect for them. And that to me is much more meaningful than just buying something because something is coming up and I'm supposed to give them a gift. Number 8 is throw things out. And this is something that I wanted to include because I think that there is a bit of a misconception about minimalism, about decluttering, and now also about the underconsumption core trend, that minimalists have less stuff, so therefore we throw out all our stuff. And I think that most minimalists are not like that. We tend to be very intentional about the stuff that we want to get rid of, and we try to give it a second home if we can. If it's not in good condition anymore, if no one wants it, then yes, we might throw it out. But I have seen some pretty wasteful videos online on, like, sometimes I watch videos that discuss things that happen on TikTok, because I'm not on TikTok, so I'm kind of fascinated with it sometimes. And there are people with the underconsumption core thing that just take out their whole makeup collection and throw it in a bin. It's like, okay, I'm done with all that makeup, I'm just throwing it out. Lots and lots of unused products that could have been used by someone else, they just throw it out. And I think that that is missing the point. That's just kind of wasteful in my opinion. So minimalists, I think, do try to avoid creating waste rather than just throwing a bunch of things out, decluttering whatever no longer sparks our interest, and then going shopping again. That kind of misses the point. But I do know that that is a misconception that some people have about us minimalists, so I thought I'd correct it here. Number 9 is to buy a bunch of different skincare items, hair care, makeup, all kinds of beauty items, or have like a 12 to 15 step skincare routine. As a 36-year-old woman who is starting to know the first like signs of aging, which by the way, I actually really enjoy, but I have also gotten a bit more interested in skincare now, and I do have a little bit more than I used to, but I still keep it really intentional and minimal. And there are many skincare products out there that I don't go near because I don't feel like I either need them or I know that my skin won't tolerate them because it's really dry and sensitive, so I'm not even really like gonna subject myself to that. Number 10, this always makes me a little sad. To leave things in boxes, never to be used. I think it is very normal for people to have things that are more meaningful to them in a box somewhere in their home, and maybe take it out for special occasions, or maybe not even that, because it's too valuable and they don't want it getting dirty or broken or something, like maybe a special china that you got for your wedding, or I don't know, something else fancy. I think that when minimalists typically go around their home doing their decluttering sessions, if that is something that you're interested in, they will come across items like that and will ask themselves, either I will get rid of this because it's just sitting in a box and it doesn't do anything for me anymore, or I actually find it and I'm like, wow, this is so meaningful to me, and then I actually use it, or I will display it somewhere so that I can actually see it and look at it and appreciate it and value it, which I think is much more important than saving things in a box, because yeah, that makes me sad, you know, the item is just sitting in a box somewhere, forgotten about. It's kind of sad. Number 11 is buy now, pay later, or buy now, think later. The whole concept of buying something now, paying for something later, I think is mostly there to convince people to buy things that they can't really easily or comfortably afford. So it gives you the option of paying for it later or going for some kind of payment plan so that you can still get that thing that you really want but can't really easily afford. You know, there are of course exceptions to everything, and there can be exceptions to this as well. But when it comes to like the typical standard stuff, minimalists, I think, tend to be more intentional when it comes to their spending and ask themselves, can I really afford this? Like, can I afford to buy this thing and then also to keep buying the things that it needs? Which comes to my second point, is buy now, think later. We tend to already think like, okay, what is this going to need when I have it, when I have made the initial purchase? Is this going to need upkeep or maintenance? If I buy a coffee machine, what are those little coffee pods? Like, what do they cost? Can I afford that? We tend to think through our purchases before we make them. And if it is something that we have to pay for later or go on a payment plan, unless it's something that we absolutely need right now, most minimalists, I think, will probably either wait or just don't go for it altogether. Number 12 is pay for brand names, by which I mean not necessarily because you think that that brand makes exactly what you need and it is really good quality. I think that can still be fine, but I mean mostly just because of the brand name, just because it's Apple, or just because it's, I don't know, Gucci or Dior, or I don't know what people buy, but because of the brand name. Minimalists don't typically buy things to impress people, I think. Whether it is a fancier house or a fancier car or a fancier designer bag, that is not really enough reason for us to purchase something. And if we can get something that is just as good, but that doesn't have the fancy designer name, then I think most minimalists will go that way. I just spilled my tea. Apparently, spilling things is a normal people thing that minimalists do. Luckily, it wasn't hot, so that's a good thing. Number 13 is, I think, very relevant today, and that is buying books instead of reading books. I think a minimalist tends to ask themselves the questions, why? Why do I want this? Is this a want or is this a need? Why do I feel like this can add value to my life? How often do I see myself using it? Like, they ask themselves a bunch of questions. And if they continue to buy books and then not read the books, then I think a minimalist would probably spot that and be like, hey, wait, I should probably read all of these books first before I purchase new ones. Number 14 is idolizing celebrities or influencers. Maybe minimalists do have like certain people that they really look up to, or that they love reading their books or things like that. Like, I have people like that too, where I'm like, oh, that's a cool person. But not because of their flashy lifestyle or their insane amount of money or their huge closet and their haul videos and the private planes and things like that. I think that is so not the kind of lifestyle that the typical minimalist would aspire to. And I think that just because someone is successful or has a large following or makes a lot of money, that is not enough reason, at least for me, to idolize something or think that they're really cool. Number 15, this is a big one, falling into the sunk cost fallacy. So the sunk cost fallacy means when someone is reluctant to stop with a certain action or a certain thing because they've already invested a lot of time or money or energy into that thing, even if it is clear that abandoning it would be more beneficial. And this is also sometimes called throwing good money after bad. And for a typical minimalist conundrum, this would be keeping things in your closet, for example, or your home, because you've spent a lot of money on it and you don't want to declutter it because that will be a waste. I think minimalists tend to be very future focused. So we do consider the past of a certain item. We consider like maybe some memories attached to it or the money that we spent on it. It is a consideration, but it is not going to influence our decision whether or not we want to move forward with this thing. So I, for example, like to ask myself, does this thing deserve a place in my future? And that question is very helpful because it allows me to move past things like feeling bad about spending a lot of money on it or already investing a lot of time into it. And it makes it easier to say goodbye to things that we don't feel should have a place in our future. Number 16 is saying yes to things that we really actually would like to say no to. The ideas of minimalism can be applied not just to our things, but also to our life in general. The commitments we have, the things we put in our calendar, the ways we want to spend our time and our energy. And there may be a fine line between being an intentional minimalist and being a selfish person. Like, we can still do things for others and do things we don't enjoy sometimes. But in the end, I do think that if it is something that we really, really don't want to do, doesn't align with our values, or we don't see how that would make us happy in any capacity, then I think that the typical minimalist would say no to things like that. The thing is, if you say yes to one thing, then it also means that you're saying no to other things, because we can only invest our energy and our time once. And so if you say no to something that you really don't want to do, then that means you have the opportunity to say yes to something that actually is valuable and meaningful to you. Number 17 is hanging out with people who always make you feel worse. And I'm not saying that minimalists declutter people as easily as we declutter something like a worn out shoe or something. Obviously, with people it's different. But I think that we do also tend to ask ourselves, what is my influence on the people around me, and also what is the influence of the people around me on me. And I personally have had the experience in my life, really made it so clear to me the difference it can make if you hang around with someone who's positive, life affirming, who has passions, who loves to do certain things, and you kind of get swept up in their positive energy and they build you up and they're just a really cool person, as opposed to the opposite. It's such a big difference. Number 18 is looking for things to want. I think this is a huge one because so many of the things that we typically easily buy are not necessarily things that we needed, and maybe even not things that we knew existed before we went out looking for them. So retail therapy, buying new things, it is fun, it gives us dopamine, it gives us some excitement, and many people are kind of in that cycle of wanting something, looking for it, eventually acquiring it, and then starting to look for the next thing to want, whether that is by subscribing to newsletters from your favorite stores, whether that is following creators who continually show new things that you can want, TikTok shop, wherever you want to go. There is so much information out there if you look for it, where you can find things like, oh, that is cool, oh, that is nice, and then suddenly you can't get it out of your head and you want it and you want it, and then you can't rest until you buy it. That is the cycle that I am so happy about not being in anymore as a minimalist. It is so much nicer on my mindset, my energy. I don't look for things to want. I let the situation arise where I feel like there is something that I would need for something specific. Do you know what I mean? Like an actual problem that I can fix with an item, or something where I'm like, oh, that would make something that I already enjoy, like cooking, a lot better or a lot easier. I let the actual need arise instead of going out looking for things to want, if that makes sense. Number 19 is keeping things out of guilt. I have one rule that really helps me when I declutter my home every now and then, and that is that if I'm keeping something out of guilt and there's no other reason other than that I want to keep the item, then I have to get rid of them. It needs to have at least one good reason for me to hang on to an item, and not just because I feel guilty because it was a gift, or because it used to belong to someone who maybe passed away, or because, I don't know, I've spent a lot of money on it. Decluttering guilt is a very real thing, and it can make decluttering very, very difficult sometimes and very emotional. So I do want to acknowledge that. But for me personally, there needs to be at least one other reason why I want to hang on to something. And if it's just me feeling guilty, then I think it's time to part with an item. Number 20 is buying things for your fantasy self or your not real life circumstances, weather circumstances, etc. There are so many things that we can buy for our fantasy self, or for the person that we would maybe like to be or like to be perceived as. But in the end, if an item is not something that really fits your preferences, your lifestyle, your timetable, your work, your weather circumstances, it is going to be something that you hardly ever use. Even if you would like to be that person, if you're just not, then it's not going to work out. And I think minimalists tend to be very intentional and mindful about that. And number 21 has to do with that as well, and that is going all out with purchasing many things for every new hobby. If there is something like a new hobby or a new interest, I personally think that minimalism shouldn't stand in the way of you trying it out, because life is too short and we need to try a bunch of different things and see what we like, and those can change, our interests can change. So that is all fine, but usually we will have at least enough to give it a go, to try it at least once, and to give it an actual try, see if it is something we enjoy, and see if it is something that we see ourselves sticking with long term before we go and buy the things that would make it better or easier or nicer, which is all fine. But I think that minimalists tend to be like, okay, I would like to give that a try, maybe do a workshop first where they already have this stuff. Let's say it's art or something. You don't have to go all out buy a bunch of art supplies. You can try a workshop first and see if it's actually something you enjoy. It is just kind of a waste to buy things for this new hobby that you think, like, if I buy this, then I'm going to be that person who does that. That's typically not how it works. First, try to see if you are the person who does that, and then you can buy the things. Number 22, buying things just to be a fan. Now, I do buy things because I'm a fan sometimes. I have a bunch of different Studio Ghibli stuff. I have my Sackboy little statue that I really like. And recently my boyfriend gave me a really cute gift, which is Vivi from a much beloved video game of mine, Final Fantasy IX. I love this character, and they had this amazing action figure, like stuffed animal / action figure of like official merch, and I was very, very happy with it. I love it so, so much, and it makes me very happy. So as someone who is a bit of a fangirly, if I wasn't a minimalist, I would have so much more of that stuff. That is, I think, the biggest thing here. And that is because of minimalism. I've learned that you don't have to buy all the things, all the merch, all the plushies and the whatever, because you're a fan of that. You can also just be a fan and enjoy the thing that it is, whether it's movies, video games, anime, whatever it is, without also buying the things. You can be the biggest fan in the world and not have any of the merch. It's a separate thing. And sometimes I will go to places and stores that have all those cute things of all the things that I'm a big fan of, like Studio Ghibli and things like that. And I just go and I appreciate all the cute items. I look at them and they make me happy, and then I just place them back and I go home. So that is usually how I do it. Every once in a while something comes through and I do end up buying it or getting it as a gift, and that's, you know, I'm completely fine with that. I don't make myself be the perfect minimalist who doesn't own anything superfluous. But in the end, I think that if I wasn't a minimalist, I would have a bunch more things. And I'm very glad that I don't. I'm very glad to keep this very intentional and minimal. Number 23 is buying things without considering how they are made. And this, I don't think, applies maybe to every minimalist. And maybe we also all have different things that we are mostly concerned about, whether it's the environmental impact. For me, it's vegan. Like, I don't buy things that are not vegan because I don't want to support animal cruelty, animal abuse. So that is a really big thing for me. There can be so many things to consider: how something was made, what the impact is on the planet, the people, the animals. And not all minimalists maybe consider this part, but I think that once you start to practice that intentionality when it comes to your purchases, there comes a point where naturally you also start to consider things like this. And that's why I added it on the list. Number 24 is compare our real life to seemingly picture-perfect aesthetics online. I think in the end, most minimalists like to focus on what they already have and make do with what they already have, and also appreciate everything that they have. And we know that what looks online to be absolutely perfect most likely is not someone's actual real life. It is content for content purposes. Things are made to look perfect, and that is not real life. And I think that minimalists are aware of that, and they don't try to buy a bunch of different things to also keep up with those appearances. And lastly, number 25 is watch haul videos or do hauls themselves. Some of the haul videos out there and haul like content, lucky scoops, what else is out there, where people buy 20 different things to throw in a bathtub for a self-care moment that you can all buy because the link is all like, there's all affiliate links and stuff. And then if you add up all the cost of all the items that are being shown in just one TikTok, it's like $300. Absolutely insane. Those things make me quite uncomfortable to watch, and I just really don't think that minimalists would really enjoy making or watching that kind of content or do hauls themselves. We like to be much more intentional and maybe purchase one thing because we really would like to have that one thing. I would love to know from you, is there something that you maybe have always done previously but you've recently stopped doing to live a more intentional, minimal or simple life? I would love to know in the comments, so please share if you are willing. As always, thank you so much for sticking around till the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And if you would like to see more videos from me, you can always also join us on Patreon. I post 2 extra videos a month over there, and I've been doing that a while, so there are more than 120 videos, I think, up so far that you can catch up on if you want. If you join, you'll get access to everything that's on there, and you're also supporting my work as a content creator. So yeah, you can go to patreon.com/simplehappyzen. As always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you all again in about a week and a half. Bye bye. People kept warning me that one day I would spill my tea, and now it actually happened. But you know, I've been filming for more than 7 years, and I think this is the first time.